50 people thought they were attending a birthday party on a foggy September morning in Marin County. Instead, they witnessed the most emotional wedding speech ever given by a 5-year-old boy, words so powerful they would change how the world understands love, loss, and what it truly means to be a family. What XAEXI said that day about his invisible brother would leave grown men crying and transform a secret ceremony into something sacred. But to understand why his words mattered so much, we need to go back to where it all began. The morning fog rolled off the Pacific Ocean like a soft gray blanket. It covered the hills of Marin County, California, making everything look like a dream. Sarah Chen stood at the window of the guest bedroom, watching 50 white chairs being arranged on the hillside below. Her heart was beating so fast she could hear it in her ears. "Are you ready for this?" asked her sister Maya, who was helping her zip up the cream-colored dress. Sarah looked at herself in the mirror. The dress was simple and flowing, nothing fancy. Her long black hair was pulled back with small white flowers that her mother had picked from their garden that morning. She looked like herself, just dressed up. "I think so," Sarah whispered. "But what if people are angry that we kept it secret?" Maya smiled and squeezed her sister's hand. "They'll understand. Look outside. Everyone came because they love you both." Down on the hillside, guests were finding their seats. They all thought they were coming to a birthday party for Elon Musk, Elon's mother. The invitation had said, celebrating May's 76th birthday, with a note about enjoying ocean views and good food. Gwynne Shotwell, the president of SpaceX, sat in the third row wearing a blue sundress. She kept checking her phone for work emails. J.B. Straubel, who used to work at Tesla, was talking to some Neuralink scientists about brain chips. Everyone was relaxed and happy. Nobody knew they were about to witness a wedding in another room of the big house. Elon Musk was trying to tie his black tie. His hands were shaking a little. He was nervous, which was funny because he'd launched rockets into space and sent cars to orbit around Earth. But getting married again felt scarier than all of that. "Dad, you're making it crooked," said Griffin, his 19-year-old son. Griffin was home from Stanford University for the weekend. He was tall like his father, with the same pale skin and thin build. "Here, let me help," said Kai, who was 17. He fixed his dad's tie with steady hands. "There, you look good." Saxon and Damien, the other teenage boys, were getting their younger siblings ready. XAEXI, who was 5 years old, wore a tiny black suit with a bow tie. His sister Exa Dark Sidereal, who went by Y and was 4, had on a yellow dress with flowers. "Do I really have to give a speech?" X asked his big brothers. He was holding a piece of paper that he'd been working on for weeks. "Only if you want to," said Griffin. "But I think people would like to hear what you have to say." X nodded seriously. He was small for his age, with his father's light eyes and his mother Grimes' delicate features. Sometimes he seemed much older than 5 because he thought about big things. "I practiced with Mom on video call last night," X said. Grimes lived in Austin now, but she and Elon were good friends and shared time with their children. She said, "To speak from my heart." "That's good advice," said Damien, straightening his little brother's bow tie. Outside, the fog was starting to lift. The September sun broke through in golden patches, making the ocean sparkle. It was going to be a beautiful day. Peter Thiel, who owned the house, walked around making sure everything was perfect. The string quartet was tuning their instruments under a big oak tree. The judge from San Francisco had arrived and was reading over her notes at exactly 3 o'clock. The music started. It was classical and peaceful, floating across the hillside. The guests settled into their chairs, expecting to see Elon Musk come out for her birthday celebration. Instead, a side door of the house opened. Elon stepped out first, wearing his simple black suit. He looked nervous but happy, with that shy smile he got when he was trying not to show too much emotion. Then Sarah appeared beside him. The gasps from the audience were so loud that even the birds in the eucalyptus trees stopped singing for a moment. "Oh my God," whispered Dr. Lisa Park, one of Sarah's friends from graduate school at Stanford. "Is that a wedding dress?" Sarah's cream dress moved in the ocean breeze as she and Elon walked hand in hand toward the chairs. She was carrying a small bouquet of white roses and eucalyptus branches. People started pulling out their phones, but security guards appeared from behind trees and politely reminded everyone about the no photos rule that had been mentioned in the invitation. Elon and Sarah stopped in front of the 50 shocked guests. The Pacific Ocean stretched out behind them, endless and blue. Seagulls called in the distance. "Surprise," Elon said, his voice carrying across the hillside. That one word made everyone lean forward in their chairs. "We're getting married today." The audience erupted in whispers and small cheers. Several people started crying happy tears right away. "We wanted you here because you're the people who matter most to us," Sarah added, her voice clear and strong despite her nervousness. "Thank you for being part of our secret." Judge Maria Rodriguez stepped forward. She was a friend of Sarah's family and had agreed to perform the ceremony. She was a small woman with kind eyes and gray hair pulled back in a bun. "Welcome, everyone, to what I'm told is the most beautiful surprise wedding I've ever had the honor to officiate," Judge Rodriguez said with a warm smile. The ceremony was simple and perfect. Elon and Sarah had written their own vows. When Elon spoke about finding someone who understood his dreams but also helped him stay grounded, his voice cracked with emotion. "Sarah, you make me want to be a better father, a better leader, and a better human being," he said, looking directly into her dark eyes. "You see the world as it could be, not just as it is. And you make my brain feel quiet in the best possible way." Sarah's vows talked about finding a partner who shared her desire to help humanity through science. "Elon, you taught me that dreaming big isn't crazy, it's necessary," she said. "I can't wait to build the future with you, one day at a time." The ring exchange was simple. Sarah's wedding ring matched her small diamond engagement ring. Elon's was a plain platinum band. "By the power vested in me by the state of California, I now pronounce you husband and wife," Judge Rodriguez announced. They kissed as the coastal fog completely cleared, letting the September sun shine down on them. The string quartet played "Here Comes the Sun" by the Beatles, which was Sarah's favorite song. Everyone clapped and cheered. It felt like magic. But then Judge Rodriguez raised her hand for quiet. "The bride and groom have asked if family members would like to say a few words," she announced. Mae Musk stood up first. At 75, she was still beautiful and strong, with silver hair and bright eyes. She welcomed Sarah to the family and talked about what a wonderful stepmother she would be. Griffin spoke next for the older boys, thanking Sarah for making their dad smile more than he had in years. Little Y gave Sarah a drawing she'd made of their whole family holding hands. Then XAEXI stepped forward. The 5-year-old looked tiny, standing in front of all those grown-ups. He was holding his piece of paper, but his hands weren't shaking anymore. He looked serious and determined. Everyone leaned forward to hear what he would say. The ocean waves seemed to quiet down. Even the seagulls stopped calling. X opened his mouth to speak, and the entire wedding party held their breath, waiting to hear the words that would leave them all in tears. But what he said would have to wait. For another moment. 2 years earlier, Neuralink Lab, Fremont, California. The clock on the wall showed 11:47 p.m., but Dr. Sarah Chun didn't notice. She was too focused on the computer screen in front of her, watching tiny electrical signals from a mouse's brain. The lab was quiet except for the hum of machines and the soft squeaking of mice in their cages. Most of the Neuralink team had gone home hours ago, but Sarah stayed late most nights. She loved this work too much to stop. "Come on, little guy," she whispered to the mouse on the screen. "Show me those brain signals." The mouse had a tiny chip in its brain, smaller than a coin. The chip could read the mouse's thoughts about moving its paws. If this worked, it could help people who couldn't move their arms or legs control computers, just by thinking. But tonight, the signals kept cutting out. Sarah had been trying to fix the problem for 3 hours. She rubbed her tired eyes and took a sip of cold coffee. Her long black hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. She wore jeans and a Stanford sweatshirt that had seen better days. That's when she heard footsteps in the hallway. Sarah looked up, surprised. Who else would be here this late? She hoped it wasn't security telling her to go home, but it was Elon Musk who appeared in her doorway. Sarah had seen him around the lab before, but they'd never really talked. He looked tired too, wearing dark jeans and a black t-shirt. His hair was messy like he'd been running his hands through it. "Working late?" he asked, stepping into the lab. "The signal keeps dropping," Sarah said, pointing at her screen. She wasn't nervous talking to him, which surprised her. "I can't figure out what." Elon walked over and looked at her computer. Most bosses would have just said good luck and kept walking. But Elon sat down in the chair next to her. Can you show me the last 10 minutes of data? He asked. Sarah pulled up the files. Together, they looked at the brain signals. Elon asked good questions and made smart suggestions. He knew more about brain science than Sarah had expected. There, he said, pointing at a pattern on the screen. See how the signal drops every time the mouse turns left? I think the chip is moving slightly. Sarah looked closer. He was right. So we need to anchor it better, she said. Exactly. They worked together until 3 a.m., testing different ways to keep the chip stable. Sarah forgot she was working with one of the most famous people in the world. He was just another scientist trying to solve a problem. When they finally got the signal to stay strong, Sarah couldn't help but smile. Yes, that's it. Elon smiled too. Nice work, Dr. Chun. Just call me Sarah, she said. And thank you. I would have been here all night without your help. I come by the labs a lot when I can't sleep, Elon admitted. Which is most nights. I like seeing the work everyone is doing. As they walked out together, Sarah realized she felt comfortable around him. He wasn't trying to impress her or show off. He was just curious and smart and kind. Want to grab coffee sometime? Elon asked as they reached the parking lot. To talk. About the project, I mean. Sure, Sarah said. I'd like that. 3 weeks later, their first coffee turned into lunch. Then lunch turned into long walks around the Neuralink campus, talking about consciousness and dreams and whether computers could ever really think. Sarah learned that Elon was nothing like what she'd expected from reading about him online. Yes, he worked too much and forgot to eat. But he also asked thoughtful questions and listened to her answers. He cared about her ideas, not just her looks. Elon learned that Sarah had grown up poor in Oakland. Her parents, Dr. James Chun and Linda Chun, had worked 3 jobs between them to pay rent. Sarah's dad was a dentist and her mom was a nurse, but they'd come to America with nothing. I got a scholarship to UC Berkeley because my grades were perfect, Sarah told him as they walked around the campus one sunny afternoon. Then Stanford paid for my PhD because I wanted to study how brains work. Why brain science? Elon asked. My little cousin Danny was born with cerebral palsy, Sarah explained. He's really smart, but his body doesn't do what his brain tells it to do. I wanted to find a way to help people like him. That's when Elon knew Sarah was different from anyone he'd dated before. She didn't care about his money or his fame. She cared about using science to help people who couldn't help themselves. Their first real date was at the California Academy of Sciences in San Francisco. They walked through the rainforest dome, surrounded by butterflies and tropical plants. They talked for hours about whether fish dream and if trees feel pain. Do you think we'll ever understand consciousness? Sarah asked as they watched sharks swim overhead in the tunnel aquarium. I think we have to try, Elon said. Even if we never figure it all out, trying to understand makes us more human. Sarah looked at him in the blue light from the aquarium. That's exactly what I think too. Walking back to the parking garage, Elon felt something he hadn't felt in years. This wasn't just attraction or excitement. This was deeper. This was someone who understood not just his work, but the reason behind the work. I had a really good time tonight, Sarah said when they reached her car, a beat-up Honda Civic with 200,000 miles on it. Me too, Elon said. He wanted to kiss her, but something held him back. Maybe it was how precious this felt. How he didn't want to mess it up by moving too fast. Instead, he just said, "Can I see you again?" I'd like that very much, Sarah replied, smiling in a way that made her whole face light up. 6 months later, by spring of 2024, Sarah and Elon were spending most of their free time together, but they kept their relationship completely secret. Sarah had seen what happened to Elon's ex-wives and girlfriends in the media. She didn't want photographers following her to work or reporters asking her parents questions. I like having something that's just ours, she told Elon one evening as they watched the sunset from his backyard in Bel Air. Are you sure? He asked. It must be hard, not being able to tell people. Sarah took his hand. My sister Maya knows. And your mom figured it out. That's enough for now. Elon's mother, May, had indeed figured it out during a family dinner. She'd watched how Elon's eyes followed Sarah around the room, how he smiled more when Sarah was there, how he seemed calmer and happier. After dinner, May had pulled Sarah aside. You're good for him, May had said simply. I haven't seen him this relaxed in years. He's good for me too, Sarah had replied. He makes me think. Bigger. The hardest part about keeping their relationship secret was how much Sarah wanted to share it with the world. Not for attention, but because she was proud of Elon and wanted people to see the side of him she knew. She saw him stay up all night when a SpaceX launch failed, not because of the money lost, but because he felt responsible for his team's disappointment. She saw him learn sign language so he could communicate better with a deaf engineer at Tesla. She saw him cry when he read news stories about children who needed the medical devices Neuralink was developing. The media only shows the flashy stuff. Sarah told her sister Maya during one of their weekly phone calls. They don't show how much he cares about getting things right. Maybe that's why he needs you, Maya said. Someone who sees all of him, not just the headlines. As their relationship grew stronger, Sarah realized she was falling in love not just with Elon's brilliant mind, but with his huge heart. And Elon realized he'd found someone who loved him for who he really was, not who the world thought he should be. But they both knew that keeping their love secret forever wasn't possible. Eventually, they would have to decide, stay hidden or face the world together. That decision was still months away. For now, they were content to work side by side at Neuralink during the day and talk about the future under the stars at night. Neither of them knew that their biggest test was coming soon. Spring 2024, Palo Alto, California. The biggest test came on a rainy Tuesday morning in May. Sarah was eating breakfast in her small apartment when her phone buzzed with a news alert. Tesla stock drops 15% after factory fire in Shanghai. Sarah's heart sank. She knew what this meant. Elon would be stressed, working 20-hour days, and probably not eating or sleeping. She'd seen him during crises before. He took every problem personally, like it was his fault when things went wrong. She texted him, "Saw the news. Are you okay?" His reply came 3 hours later. "At the factory. Workers are safe. That's what matters." That was so like him, Sarah thought. Even when his company was losing billions of dollars, he worried about people first. She didn't hear from him for 2 days. When Elon finally called, his voice sounded exhausted. "Sarah, I'm sorry. Things are crazy right now. The fire damaged our main production line. We have to rebuild everything." "Don't apologize," Sarah said. "What can I do to help?" Most people in Elon's life wanted something from him when he was successful. Sarah was offering to help when things were falling apart. That meant everything to him. Just, "Can you come over tonight? I know it's late, but I could really use a friend." Sarah drove to his house in Bel Air at 11 p.m. She found Elon in his home office, surrounded by laptops showing video calls with engineers in China. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. "Have you eaten anything today?" she asked. Elon had to think about it. "Coffee. Maybe some crackers this morning." Sarah went to his kitchen and made scrambled eggs and toast. Simple food that would be easy on his stressed stomach. She brought it to his office on a tray. "You don't have to take care of me," Elon said, but he ate every bite. "I want to," Sarah replied. That's what people do when they care about each other. For the next week, Sarah came over every evening after work. She brought healthy food and made sure Elon took breaks. She didn't try to fix his business problems or give advice about things she didn't understand. She just listened when he needed to talk and was quiet when he needed to think. "The media is saying I'm a failure," Elon told her one night as they sat in his backyard. "That I take on too many projects and can't handle them all." "What do you think?" Sarah asked. "I think they might be right," he admitted. "Sometimes I wonder if I'm just fooling myself. Maybe trying to get to Mars and save the planet is too much for one person." Sarah was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "My dad used to tell me that the biggest problems need the biggest dreamers. Maybe you're not trying to do too much. Maybe everyone else is trying to do too little." Elon looked at her in the moonlight. "How do you always know exactly what to say?" "I don't," Sarah laughed. "Half the time I have no idea what I'm doing. But I believe in you, even when you don't believe in yourself." That's when Elon knew for sure that he loved her. Summer 2024. Meeting the children. The real test came when Sarah started meeting Elon's children. She was nervous about it for weeks. "What if they don't like me?" she asked Elon as they drove to his ex-wife Justine's house to pick up the older boys. "They'll love you," Elon said. "But even if they need time to warm up, that's okay too. This is new for them." Griffin, Kai, Saxon, and Damien were polite but careful when they first met Sarah. They'd seen their dad date other people before. They'd learned not to get too attached too quickly, but Sarah didn't try to win them over with expensive gifts or fun trips. She just acted like herself. When Saxon mentioned he was struggling with his physics homework, she offered to help. When Kai talked about wanting to learn guitar, she listened without trying to solve everything. The breakthrough came 3 weeks later. Saxon was working on a science project about how the human brain processes information. He was frustrated because he couldn't understand how neurons work. It's like they're trying to talk to each other, but I can't figure out the language they use, he complained. Sarah sat down next to him at the kitchen table. Want me to show you something cool? She drew a simple picture of a neuron on his notebook. Then she drew more neurons connecting to it, like a web. Think of neurons like people at a party, she said. They pass messages to each other by sending chemical signals. It's like whispering a secret from person to person across a crowded room. Saxon's eyes lit up. Oh, so when I want to move my hand, my brain whispers the message from neuron to neuron until it reaches my hand muscles. Exactly, Sarah said. You got it. They worked together for 2 hours, building a model of how thoughts become actions. Saxon was excited about science in a way Elon hadn't seen before. That night, Saxon told his dad, Sarah's really cool. She makes hard things easy to understand. And she doesn't talk to me like I'm stupid. One by one, all the children came to love Sarah. She helped Griffin prepare for his SATs, listened to Kai practice guitar, and taught Damien how to code in Python. She never tried to replace their mother. She just became someone they could trust and talk to. The biggest test came with the youngest children. Xaexi was 3 years old then, and Xa was 2. They lived mostly with their mother Grimes in Austin, but spent weekends with Elon. X was shy at first, hiding behind his father when Sarah came over. But she didn't push him. She just sat on the floor and played with his robot toys. Soon, X was showing her how each robot worked and making up stories about their adventures. This one is Astro, X told her, holding up a small silver robot. He protects the other robots when they're scared. That's very kind of him, Sarah said. Seriously, everyone needs someone to protect them sometimes. Why was easier? She climbed right into Sarah's lap during story time and asked her to read the same book 3 times in a row. Sarah didn't mind. She'd never had little children in her life before, and she found their curiosity amazing. Do you like kids? Elon asked her one evening after X and Y had gone to bed. I love your kids, Sarah said. They're smart and funny and kind. You've done a good job raising them. We've done a good job, Elon corrected. Justine and Grimes. And I. It takes a village. Sarah smiled. I'd like to be part of that village, if you'll have me. Fall 2024. The hardest test came in October, when everything seemed to go wrong at once. Twitter, now called X, was losing advertisers. Tesla had production delays. A SpaceX rocket exploded during testing. Elon was working 18-hour days and barely speaking to anyone. Sarah watched him get thinner and more stressed. She brought him food, but he forgot to eat it. She suggested he take breaks, but he said he didn't have time. One night, she found him asleep at his desk at 2 a.m., his head on his laptop keyboard. Elon, she said gently, shaking his shoulder. Come to bed. He woke up confused and angry. I can't sleep. Do you know how much money we lost today? Do you know how many jobs are at risk? I know you're doing everything you can, Sarah said calmly, but you can't fix everything if you make yourself sick. You don't understand, Elon snapped. This isn't just about me. Thousands of people depend on these companies. If I fail, they fail too. Sarah had never seen him this angry before. For a moment, she thought about leaving. It would be easier to date someone who had a normal job and normal problems. But then she looked at his face and saw something else under the anger. Fear. He was terrified of letting people down. You're right, she said quietly. I don't understand the pressure you're under, but I understand you. And I know you're not going to fail because you care too much to give up. Elon's anger melted away. He sat down heavily in his chair. Sometimes I feel like I'm drowning, he admitted. Like there's too much to do and not enough time to do it right. Sarah knelt beside his chair. Then let me help you swim. I can't fix rocket engines or design cars, but I can make sure you eat and sleep and remember that you're not alone. That night, for the first time in weeks, Elon went to bed before midnight. Sarah stayed with him, and when he woke up from nightmares about failing, she reminded him of all the things he'd already succeeded at. You've already changed the world, she told him. Electric cars, reusable rockets, brain chips that help paralyze people. Even if you never did another thing, You've already made the world better. But there's so much more to do, Elon said. There. Always will be, Sarah replied. That's why you need to take care of yourself. The world needs you healthy and happy, not burned out and exhausted. Over the next few months, things slowly got better. The rocket problems were fixed. Tesla started delivering cars again. X found new advertisers. But the most important thing that happened was that Elon learned to trust Sarah completely. She had seen him at his worst, angry, scared, and overwhelmed, and she hadn't run away. She had stayed and helped him find his way back to himself. You make my brain feel quiet, he told her one evening as they watched the stars from his backyard. For the first time in my life, I'm not thinking about 10 different problems at once. Good, Sarah said, squeezing his hand. Everyone needs a quiet place to rest. That's when Elon started thinking about forever. July 2025, Palo Alto, California. Elon had never been good at buying gifts for people. He could design rockets that traveled to Mars, but picking out a birthday present made him nervous. So when he decided he wanted to marry Sarah, he spent weeks worrying about the ring. Just get something she'll like, his mother may told him. Over the phone, Sarah isn't impressed by big, flashy things. That was true. Sarah drove a 10-year-old Honda Civic and lived in a small apartment even though she could afford better. She spent her money on books and donations to animal shelters, not designer clothes or fancy jewelry. Elon went to 3 different jewelry stores in Beverly Hills. Everything looked too big, too sparkly, too much. Finally, he found a simple platinum ring with a small, clear diamond. It was beautiful without being show-offy. Perfect, said the jeweler, a kind older woman named Mrs. Garcia. This is for someone who values meaning over money. Exactly, Elon said, relieved. The harder question was where to propose. Elon's first thought was to do something big and impressive. Rent out Disneyland. Fly Sarah to Paris. Write her name in the sky with SpaceX rockets. But then he remembered what Sarah had told him once. The best moments are the quiet ones. When it's just us and we can be ourselves. Sarah's favorite place in the world was Point Reyes National Seashore, about an hour north of San Francisco. She loved the hiking trails, the lighthouse, and the elephant seals that lived on the beaches. They had gone there on many weekend trips, walking hand in hand along the cliffs. That's where I'll do it, Elon decided. But first, he had to tell the children. This was important. Sarah had become part of their family over the past year. If he was going to marry her, he wanted to make sure his kids were happy about it. He gathered all of them at his house on a Saturday morning. Griffin was home from college for the summer. The younger ones were staying for the weekend. I want to ask Sarah to marry me, Elon announced as they sat around the kitchen table eating pancakes. The reaction was immediate and loud. Yes, shouted Y, clapping her hands. Sarah will be our stepmom. Are you going to have a big wedding? Asked Damien. Can I help pick her dress? Asked Saxon. Griffin, being the oldest, was more thoughtful. Are you sure, Dad? Marriage is a big deal. I'm sure, Elon said. Sarah makes me happy in a way I haven't felt in years. And I think she makes all of us better. She does, said Kai. Remember when she helped me with my guitar practice for 3 hours straight? And she didn't get frustrated when I kept messing up the same chord. XAEXI had been quiet during the conversation. Now he looked up from his pancakes. Dad, if you marry Sarah, will she stay with us forever? He asked seriously. That's the plan, buddy, Elon said, ruffling his son's hair. Would you like that? X nodded. Sarah reads to me and builds robots, and she never gets tired of my questions. I want her to stay. That settled it. The kids were on board. The perfect day 3 weeks later, on a sunny Sunday morning in July, Elon told Sarah that they were going for a drive. Where are we going? She asked as they got into his Model S. Point Reyes, Elon said. I thought we could hike and have a picnic. Sarah smiled. Perfect. I need to get away from the lab for a while. They packed sandwiches and water bottles and drove up Highway 1. The road wound along the coast, with views of the Pacific Ocean on their right and rolling green hills on their left. Sarah took pictures of wildflowers through the car window. I love this drive, she said. It feels like we're escaping to another world. They parked at the lighthouse and hiked up to Sarah's favorite spot, a cliff overlooking the ocean where they could see for miles in every direction. Seals played. In the waves below, hawks circled overhead. Sarah was taking pictures of purple lupin flowers when Elon got down on one knee behind her. Sarah, he said. She turned around and gasped, dropping her camera. Elon was holding the small ring box, his hands shaking slightly. "I've been thinking about this for months," he said. "Actually, I've been thinking about it since the night you stayed with me during the Tesla crisis. You could have walked away when things got hard, but you didn't. You stayed and helped me find my way back to myself." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "I want to build the future with you," Elon continued. "Not just rockets to Mars or brain chips or electric cars. I want to build a life, a family, a home where our kids feel safe and loved and free to dream as big as they want." He opened the ring box. The diamond caught the sunlight and sparkled. "Sarah, Chun, will you marry me?" Sarah dropped to her knees on the cliff, not caring about the dirt on her jeans. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, of course. 1,000,000 times yes." They hugged as the waves crashed below them. A family of deer emerged from the bushes to watch, as if nature itself was celebrating with them. The ring fit perfectly on Sarah's finger. It looked exactly right. Simple, beautiful, and meaningful. "I love you," Sarah said, looking into Elon's eyes. "I love your brilliant mind and your huge heart and your impossible dreams. I love how you see the world as it could be instead of just accepting how it is." "I love you too," Elon said. "You make me want to be the best version of myself." They sat on the cliff for an hour, watching the seals and talking about their future. They would have children together. They would travel to see the first SpaceX colony on Mars. They would grow old watching their kids change the world. But they also agreed to keep the engagement secret, just like they had kept their relationship private. "I'm not ready for the media circus yet," Sarah said. "Can we just be engaged for a while without the whole world knowing?" "Whatever you want," Elon said. "We'll tell people when you're ready." Planning in secret over the next 2 months, they planned their wedding in complete secrecy. Only their families knew. Sarah's parents cried happy tears when she showed them the ring. Elon's mother immediately started planning what she would wear. They decided on a small ceremony, just 50 people who mattered most to them. Sarah's family and closest friends from graduate school, Elon's family, and a few trusted friends from his companies. "What about the media?" asked Sarah's sister Maya. "They're going to find out eventually. We'll deal with that when it happens," Sarah said. "For now, I just want to marry the man I love without photographers hiding in bushes." They chose September for the wedding because that's when they had first said, "I love you" to each other. Peter Thiel offered his private estate in Marin County as the venue. The only tricky part was keeping it secret from the guests. They decided to tell everyone they were coming to Elon Musk's birthday party. It wasn't exactly a lie. They would celebrate May too. But the real celebration would be much bigger as the wedding day approached. Sarah found herself getting more excited than nervous. She was marrying her best friend, the person who understood her dreams and supported her work and made her laugh every day. "Are you ready for this?" Maya asked as they addressed the secret wedding invitations. Sarah looked at her engagement ring, still sparkling after 2 months. "I've never been more ready for anything in my life," she said. Neither of them knew that the most emotional moment of their wedding would come from the smallest guest, a 5-year-old boy who had been practicing a speech that would touch everyone's heart. September 28th, 2025. Morning. Sarah woke up at 6 a.m. on her wedding day, even though she hadn't set an alarm. Her stomach was full of butterflies, but they were happy butterflies. In her small Palo Alto apartment, everything looked the same as always, but everything felt different. Pixel, her golden retriever rescue dog, sensed something special was happening. He kept following Sarah around the apartment, wagging his tail and looking at her with curious brown eyes. "Today's the big day, buddy," Sarah told him, scratching behind his ears. "Are you ready to get a new family?" Pixel would be coming to the wedding too. Sarah couldn't imagine the most important day of her life without her faithful companion who had been with her through graduate school, late nights at the lab, and lonely weekends before she met Elon at 8 a.m. Sarah's sister Maya arrived with coffee and bagels from their favorite bakery in downtown Palo Alto. "How are you feeling?" Maya asked, studying her sister's face carefully. "Good," Sarah said, and she meant it. "Really good. Not nervous exactly, just excited. Like something wonderful is about to happen." "Something wonderful is about to happen," Maya laughed. "You're marrying the man you love." Sarah's parents arrived an hour later. Dr. James Chun carried a bouquet of white roses and eucalyptus that he had cut from their garden at 6 a.m. Linda Chun brought Sarah's grandmother's pearl earrings, wrapped carefully in tissue paper. "Your Grandma Chun would be so proud," Linda said, her eyes getting watery. "She always said you would find someone who appreciated your beautiful mind." "Mom, don't make me cry yet," Sarah laughed. "We haven't even started getting ready." But seeing the earrings made Sarah feel connected to all the strong women in her family who had come before her. Women who had worked hard, loved deeply, and raised children who changed the world in small but important ways. Getting ready, Sarah had chosen a simple cream-colored dress that flowed when she walked. It wasn't a traditional wedding gown with a long train and thousands of beads. It was elegant but comfortable, something she could hike in if she wanted to. "You look beautiful," Maya said as she helped Sarah zip up the dress. "Like yourself, but glowing." The small white flowers that their father had picked looked perfect in Sarah's long black hair. She wore just a little makeup, enough to look polished in photos, but not so much that she felt like she was wearing a costume. "Are you sure about this?" Maya asked as she handed Sarah the pearl earrings. It was a sister's job to ask the hard questions. Even on wedding day, Sarah looked at herself in the mirror. She saw a woman who was happy, confident, and ready for whatever came next. "I've never been more sure of anything in my life," she said. "Elon and I are partners. We make each other better. And Maya, I love his children like they're already mine." Meanwhile, across town at his house in Bel Air, Elon was having a much more chaotic morning. 5 children were getting ready for a wedding, and it was like trying to organize a rocket launch with very small, very excited astronauts. "Dad, I can't find my good shoes," yelled Saxon from upstairs. "Has anyone seen my bow tie?" called Damien. "Why spilled orange juice on her dress?" reported Kai. Elon stood in the middle of it all, trying to tie his own tie and failing. His hands were shaking slightly. Not from nerves about marrying Sarah. He was completely sure about that. But from the weight of the moment. This was the beginning of a new chapter for all of them. Griffin appeared at his father's elbow with steady hands. "Here, Dad. Let me help." "Thanks," Elon said as Griffin fixed his tie. "I don't know why I'm so nervous. We've been together for 2 years. This doesn't really change anything." "Yes, it does," said Griffin seriously. "It changes everything. In the best way." Kai found his bow tie under a couch cushion. Saxon's shoes were in the garage where he'd left them after basketball practice. Y's dress crisis was solved with a tied pin and a hairdryer. But the most important preparation was happening with XAEXI. The 5-year-old had been working on his wedding speech for 3 weeks. He'd written it himself, with help from his older brothers and a video call with his mother Grimes, who was touring in Europe but had sent her love for the wedding. "Are you ready to practice your speech one more time?" Griffin asked X as they got dressed. X pulled out a piece of paper that was getting worn from being folded and unfolded so many times. The words were written in his careful kindergarten handwriting, with some help from Saxon on the harder spellings. "I'm scared people won't understand what I'm trying to say," X admitted. "Just speak from your heart, like Mom told you," said Kai. "That's all you can do." X nodded seriously. He was small for his age, with his father's pale eyes and delicate features. But when he talked about important things, he seemed much older than 5. "Can I tell you a secret?" X whispered to his brothers. They all leaned in. "I had a dream about Nevada last night," X said quietly. "He told me that Sarah is going to be a good mom to all of us, even him." The older boys looked at each other. Nevada was their baby brother who had died when he was just 10 weeks old, years before X was born. But somehow, X felt connected to him in a way that amazed and sometimes worried his family. "What else did he say in your dream?" Griffin asked gently. "He said he's happy that Dad found someone who makes him smile with his whole face, not just his mouth," X replied. "And he said, I should tell everyone at the wedding about him, so Sarah knows she's getting all of us, even the brother she can't see." The room got very quiet. Even Y, who was only 4, seemed to understand that something important was being said. "That's a beautiful message, buddy," Damien said, his voice thick with emotion. "Are you sure you want to share it with everyone?" X nodded firmly. "Sarah needs to know about Nevada. It's not fair to keep him secret. He's part of our family too." The journey begins. By 2 p.m., both families were ready to head to Marin County. Sarah rode with her parents and Maya, while Pixel sat in the back seat wearing a special collar made of small white flowers. I still can't believe we kept this secret for 2 months, Maya said as they drove over the Golden Gate Bridge. Usually you can't keep quiet about anything exciting. This felt too precious to share, Sarah explained. Like if too many people knew about it, it might disappear. Elon and the children took 2 cars. The older boys rode with their father, while Y and X went with their nanny, Maria, who had become like family over the years. They drove through the rolling hills of Marin County. X practiced his speech one more time in his head. He wasn't nervous anymore. He knew exactly what he wanted to say. Arriving at the secret Peter Till's estate was perfect for a secret wedding. The house sat on 20 acres of private land, surrounded by tall trees that blocked any view from the road. A long driveway wound through eucalyptus groves before opening up to reveal the beautiful property. Guests were already arriving, all of them thinking they were coming to a birthday party for Elon Musk. They parked their cars and walked toward the house, chatting and laughing. Gwynne Shotwell from SpaceX arrived with her husband, carrying a gift that she thought was for May. J.B. Straubel came with his wife, wondering why the birthday party was being held at such a fancy location at Sarah's college. Roommate had driven up from Los Angeles. Several Neuralink scientists carpooled from Fremont. Everyone was relaxed and happy, expecting a pleasant afternoon celebrating a wonderful woman's 76th birthday. The only people who knew the truth were immediate family members and Peter Thiel, who was busy making sure everything was perfect. At 2:45 p.m., Sarah and her family arrived. They went straight to the guest room where Sarah would wait until it was time for the surprise. At 2:50 p.m., Elon and the children pulled up. The boys ran ahead to see the setup while Elon carried a sleepy Y, who had dozed off in the car. XEXI clutched his speech in his small hand. In 15 minutes, he would shock everyone with news of the wedding. In 2 hours, he would share something even more surprising, a message that would touch every heart and change how his new stepmother understood their family forever. But first, 50 unsuspecting guests had to discover that they were about to witness the most beautiful surprise wedding of their lives. 3:00 p.m. The moment of truth. 50 white chairs sat perfectly arranged on the hillside overlooking the Pacific Ocean. The guests had settled in, chatting quietly while a string quartet played soft classical music under the oak trees. Everyone was relaxed and happy, waiting for what they thought would be a birthday celebration for Elon Musk. Gwynne Shotwell checked her phone one more time for SpaceX updates. Dr. Lisa Park, Sarah's friend from Stanford, was taking pictures of the beautiful ocean view. The Neuralink scientists were discussing their latest brain chip experiments in hushed voices. Peter Thiel stood near the house, watching everything with a secret smile. As the host, he was the only guest who knew what was really about to happen. Judge Maria Rodriguez was hidden inside the house, reviewing her notes one final time. She had known Sarah's family for years and was honored to perform the ceremony. Her hands were slightly shaky with excitement. At exactly 3:05 p.m., the side door of the house opened. Elon stepped out first, wearing his simple black suit and looking nervous but determined. The afternoon sun caught his face as he walked toward the surprised guests. Then Sarah appeared beside him in her flowing cream dress, her black hair decorated with small white flowers. She carried a bouquet of white roses and eucalyptus that matched the natural beauty around them. The gasps from the audience were immediate and loud. "Oh my God," whispered Dr. Park, grabbing her friend's arm. "Is that a wedding dress? Are they getting married?" asked J.B. Straubel's wife, her voice full of shock and delight. Several people reached for their phones before remembering the no photography rule mentioned in their invitations. Security guards, dressed casually like regular guests, gently reminded everyone with kind smiles. Elon and Sarah walked hand in hand to the center of the seating area. Behind them, the Pacific Ocean sparkled in the afternoon sunshine. Seagulls called in the distance, and a gentle breeze moved through the eucalyptus trees. "Surprise," Elon announced, his voice carrying clearly across the hillside. His shy smile grew wider as he saw the shocked but happy faces of their friends and family. "We're getting married today," Sarah added, her voice strong despite the butterflies in her stomach. "We wanted you here because you're the people who matter most to us." The audience erupted in whispers, small cheers, and the sound of people trying not to cry happy tears. Several guests were already reaching for tissues. "We know you came thinking this was a birthday party for my wonderful mother," Elon continued, gesturing toward May, who was sitting in the front row beaming with pride. And we will celebrate her too. But today is also about Sarah and me starting our life together as husband and wife. Judge Rodriguez stepped forward from where she had been waiting behind the oak tree. She was a small woman with kind eyes and silver hair, wearing a simple blue dress that wouldn't draw attention from the bride and groom. Welcome, everyone, to what I'm told is the most beautiful surprise wedding I've ever had the honor to officiate, Judge Rodriguez said warmly. Elon and Sarah have asked me to keep this ceremony simple and from the heart, just like their love for each other. The vows, the ceremony was everything Sarah and Elon had hoped for, intimate, meaningful, and focused on what really mattered. Elon spoke his vows first, his voice slightly shaky with emotion. Sarah, 2 years ago, you were just the brilliant scientist who worked late in the Neuralink lab. But somewhere between fixing broken brain signals and talking about consciousness, you became my best friend, my partner, and the love of my life. Several guests were already wiping their eyes. You make me want to be a better father, a better leader, and a better human being, Elon continued, looking directly into Sarah's dark eyes. You see the world as it could be, not just as it is. You believe in impossible dreams, and you help make them real. I can't wait to build the future with you. Sarah's vows were just as heartfelt. Elon, you taught me that dreaming big isn't crazy. It's necessary. You showed me that one person really can change the world if they care enough and work hard enough. Her voice grew stronger as she spoke. But more than that, you taught me what it means to be part of a family. Your children have become my children. Your dreams have become our dreams. I promise to support you, challenge you, and love you through whatever adventures come next. The ring exchange was simple but perfect. Sarah's wedding ring was a plain platinum band that matched her small engagement ring. Elon's ring was equally simple, no diamonds or engravings, just solid metal that would last forever. These rings represent our promise to each other, Judge Rodriguez explained to the audience. They have no beginning and no end, just like true love. When Elon slipped the ring onto Sarah's finger, his hands were steady. When Sarah placed the ring on Elon's hand, she was smiling through happy tears. By the power vested in me by the state of California, Judge Rodriguez announced, I now pronounce you husband and wife. The kiss was soft and perfect, with the Pacific Ocean sparkling behind them and their closest friends and family cheering. The string quartet began playing Here Comes the Sun by the Beatles, Sarah's favorite song that she had hummed while working in the lab. Family words after the official ceremony. Judge Rodriguez invited family members to share their thoughts. This was the part that Sarah and Elon were most excited about, but also most nervous about. May Musk stood up first, elegant in her lavender dress. At 75, she was still strikingly beautiful, with silver hair and bright, intelligent eyes. Sarah, May said, her South African accent still clear after decades in America. When I first met you, I knew you were special. Not because you're brilliant, though you certainly are, but because you made my son smile with his eyes again. The audience was completely quiet, hanging on every word. Elon has always carried the weight of the world on his shoulders. May continued, but with you, I see him relax. I see him laugh. I see him remember that life is about more than just work. Thank you for giving me back my happy son. There wasn't a dry eye in the audience as May hugged Sarah tightly. Griffin stepped forward next, representing the older boys. At 19, he looked remarkably like his father, but with a gentler, more open expression. Sarah, Griffin said, his voice clear and confident. When Dad first told us about you, we were cautious. We'd seen him date other people, and we'd learned not to get too attached too quickly. He paused, looking at his stepmother with genuine affection. But you never tried to replace our mom or change who we are. You just became someone we could trust and talk to. You helped Saxon with his science projects, listened to Kai practice guitar for hours, and taught Damien how to code. Thank you for loving us exactly as we are. 4-year-old Y stepped forward next, carrying a piece of paper that was clearly a drawing. She had insisted on making something special for Sarah all by herself. I drew our family, Y announced proudly, holding up a picture of stick figures holding hands. This is Dad, and this is Sarah, and these are all of us kids. We're all together now. The drawing showed 7 figures in a row, one tall, one labeled Dad, one medium, one labeled Sarah, and 5 smaller ones with the children's names written. In wise, careful preschool handwriting, Sarah knelt down to receive the drawing, her eyes filled with tears. "This is the most beautiful picture I've ever seen," she told Y. "Can we put it on our refrigerator at home?" Y nodded enthusiastically and hugged Sarah tightly. The moment everyone was waiting for finally, it was XII's turn. The 5-year-old stepped forward, looking tiny in his black suit with the bow tie. He was holding his piece of paper, the speech he had been working on for weeks. Every single person in the audience leaned forward. Something about the way X carried himself, the serious expression on his young face, told everyone that this was going to be important. X looked at his paper, then folded it up and put it in his pocket. He had decided to speak from his heart instead. "Sarah," he began in his clear, small voice that somehow carried across the entire hillside. The ocean waves seemed to quiet down. Even the seagulls stopped calling. Everyone held their breath, waiting to hear what this wise little boy would say that would touch every heart and change how Sarah understood her new family forever. The speech that changed everything. XEXI stood in front of 50 adults, looking small but determined. He had put his written speech back in his pocket and decided to speak straight from his heart, just like his mother Grimes had taught him. "Sarah," he began, his voice clear in the afternoon air, "I want to tell you something important about our family." Everyone leaned forward, completely silent. Even the ocean breeze seemed to pause. "Before I was born, my dad had another son." X continued, his words careful and serious. "His name was Nevada. He was just a tiny baby when he got very sick and went to heaven." Several guests gasped softly. This wasn't what anyone had expected from a 5-year-old's wedding speech. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. Elon had told her about Nevada early in their relationship, but hearing it from X made it feel more real somehow. "Dad gets sad sometimes when he thinks about Nevada," X went on. "And that's okay. It's okay to be sad about people we love who aren't here anymore." Griffin, Kai, Saxon, and Damien were all crying now. They remembered Nevada too, even though they were young when he died, but they had never heard anyone talk about him so openly before. "But I think Nevada would want Dad to be happy," X said, his small voice growing stronger. "I think he would want all of us to be happy. And Sarah, I think he would really like you." X reached into his other pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. But this wasn't his speech. It was a drawing he had made the night before. "I drew a picture of our whole family," he announced, holding it up. "This is Dad, and this is you, Sarah. These are all us kids. And this," he pointed to a lighter figure drawn almost like a ghost next to the others. "This is Nevada. I drew him light because we can't see him, but he's still part of our family. He always will be." The entire wedding party was crying now. Even the tough SpaceX engineers were wiping their eyes. X walked over to Sarah and handed her the drawing. "This is for you, so you know about all of us. Nevada is your stepson too, even though you can't hug him." Sarah knelt down and pulled X into her arms, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you for trusting me with this," she whispered loud enough for everyone to hear. "Nevada will always be part of our family. I promise." Elon couldn't speak. He just stood there, overwhelmed by his son's wisdom and compassion. This 5-year-old had understood something that took adults years to learn: that sharing our deepest pain with someone is the ultimate act of love and trust. The applause that followed was soft and respectful, mixed with sniffles and the sound of people trying to compose themselves. It wasn't applause for entertainment. It was applause for a little boy who had shown them what real love looks like. Moving to celebration after everyone had dried their tears and hugged X for his beautiful words, Judge Rodriguez officially concluded the ceremony. The newlyweds walked back up the aisle hand in hand while the string quartet played celebratory music, but the mood had shifted. What started as a surprise wedding had become something deeper, a ceremony about family, loss, healing, and the courage to love again. Guests moved to the reception area behind the house, where Elon Musk had prepared a feast of organic, locally sourced food. There were no fancy ice sculptures or expensive champagne fountains, just good food, good music, and good people celebrating love. Sarah kept X's drawing clutched in her hand as people congratulated her. Several guests commented on how moved they were by the little boy's speech. "That was the most beautiful thing I've ever heard at a wedding," said Dr. Lisa Park, Sarah's college friend. Your stepson is very special. All the children are, Sarah replied, watching X play with Pixel, her rescue dog, on the grass. They've taught me so much about what family really means. Elon's business partners were amazed by what they had witnessed. They had seen Elon handle billion-dollar crises and rocket failures, but they had never seen him this emotional. I've known Elon for 15 years, Gwynne Shotwell told her husband quietly. I've never seen him cry at work, even during our worst disasters. But that little boy talking about his brother, it broke all of us. An afternoon of joy. The reception was exactly what Sarah and Elon had wanted: intimate, relaxed, and focused on the people they loved most. There was no DJ playing loud music. Instead, they had created a playlist of their favorite songs that played softly in the background. Children ran around on the grass while adults talked in small groups. Pixel wore his flower collar and charmed everyone, especially the guests who had never met Sarah's beloved dog before. Sarah's parents were still amazed by the whole day. I can't believe you kept this secret for 2 months, her mother Linda said. Usually you tell me everything. This felt too special to share until it was real, Sarah explained. Like if too many people knew about it beforehand, something might go wrong. The afternoon sun was perfect, warm but not too hot, with a gentle breeze coming off the ocean. The eucalyptus trees provided shade, and the views of the Pacific stretched endlessly to the horizon. As the hours passed, guests began to relax completely. The surprise of the wedding had worn off, replaced by pure joy for the couple. Everyone could see was perfectly matched. Hidden conversations while the adults celebrated. Something important was happening with the children. X had been different since giving his speech. He seemed lighter somehow, like he had accomplished something very important. His older brothers noticed the change immediately. How do you feel, buddy? Griffin asked as they sat together on a stone wall overlooking the ocean. Good, X said simply. I told Sarah about Nevada. Now she knows about all of us. Are you glad you did it? Asked Saxon. X nodded seriously. Nevada came to me in a dream last night. He told me Sarah needed to know about him so she could love our whole family, not just the parts she can see. The older boys looked at each other. X had always been different. More sensitive, more intuitive than other kids his age. Sometimes he said things that seemed to come from somewhere beyond his 5 years of experience. What else did Nevada tell you? Kai asked gently. He said he's not sad anymore, X replied. He said he watches over all of us, especially Dad when he's working too hard. And he said Sarah has a good heart that can hold all of us, even him. Damien put his arm around his little brother. That sounds like a very wise dream. It wasn't just a dream, X said matter-of-factly. Nevada is really there. Just because we can't see him doesn't mean he's gone. As evening approaches, as the sun began to set over the Pacific, casting golden light across the hillside, the reception started to wind down. Some guests had long drives back to the city, and others had early flights the next morning, but nobody wanted to leave. This had been more than just a wedding. It had been a moment of pure love and authenticity that everyone knew they would remember forever. Sarah and Elon made their way around to each guest, thanking them for being part of their special day. Everyone had stories to share about how surprised they were, how beautiful the ceremony was, and especially how moved they were by X's speech about Nevada. That little boy has an old soul, said one of the Neuralink scientists. What he said about family, including the people we can't see, that's wisdom beyond his years. Peter Thiel, as the host, was making sure everyone had safe rides home. He had arranged for several cars to take guests who had been drinking back to San Francisco. Thank you for letting us use your beautiful home, Sarah told him as the last few guests prepared to leave. Thank you for letting me be part of something so special, Peter replied. I've been to a lot of fancy parties, but I've never been to anything as meaningful as this. The family that remains by 8 p.m., only immediate family remained on the hillside. The older boys were helping clean up, while Y had fallen asleep in Sarah's lap. Exhausted from the emotional day, X sat quietly next to his new stepmother, occasionally looking at the drawing he had given her, which she kept close by her side. Are you tired, sweetie? Sarah asked him. A little, X admitted. But I'm happy. Are you happy? I'm the happiest I've ever been, Sarah told him honestly. Thank you for telling me about Nevada. It means everything to me that you trust me with your family's most important memories. X leaned against her shoulder. Nevada is happy too. I can feel it. As the stars began to appear over Marin County, the new family sat together in comfortable silence. Tomorrow would bring media attention, questions, and all the complications of being married to one of the world's most famous people. But tonight, they were just a family who had chosen love over fear, openness over secrecy, and healing over hiding. From the past, that X's courageous speech had done exactly what he intended. It had shown Sarah that this family trusted her with their deepest secrets and their biggest dreams. In return, she had promised to honor all of them, including the brother she would never meet but would always remember. Evening settles Ines, the last golden light faded from the Pacific Ocean. The Musk family found themselves alone on the hillside. The wedding guests had gone home with full hearts and tear-stained cheeks. The catering staff had cleaned up quietly and disappeared. Even the string quartet had packed their instruments and driven back to San Francisco. Only the people who mattered most remained. Elon and Sarah, now husband and wife, surrounded by children who had become a true blended family in the space of one perfect afternoon. That Y was fast asleep in Sarah's arms, her small face peaceful after the excitement of the day. The older boys, Griffin, Kai, Saxon, and Damien, sat on blankets spread across the grass, talking quietly about the ceremony they had just witnessed. But XEXI was still wide awake, sitting close to Sarah with his head resting against her shoulder. In his small hands, he held another piece of paper that no one had seen yet. "What's that, sweetie?" Sarah asked gently. Noticing the paper, X looked up at her with his father's pale eyes. "It's another drawing. But this one is different. This one shows what I really see when I think about our family." Elon moved closer, curious about what his youngest son had created. The older boys stopped their conversation and gathered around too. X unfolded the paper carefully. This drawing was more detailed than the stick figures he had shared during the wedding. He had worked on it for hours, using colored pencils and taking great care with every line. The picture showed a large house with many windows. Through each window, you could see different family members doing things they loved. Dad was in one window working on rockets. Sarah was in another window looking at brain scans. The older boys were in their own windows, Griffin reading, Kai playing guitar, Saxon doing science experiments, Damien coding on a computer, Y was in a window playing with toys. X himself was in a window building robots. But there was one more window, drawn with lighter pencil strokes. In that window was a baby, surrounded by soft clouds and gentle light. "That's Nevada's window," X explained quietly. "He's still part of our house, even though his room looks different from ours." Sarah's eyes filled with fresh tears. "X, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Can I tell you another secret?" X whispered. Everyone leaned in closer. "Sometimes I talk to Nevada before I go to sleep," X admitted. "I tell him about my day and ask him questions. And sometimes I think I hear him talking back." The older boys exchanged glances. They had suspected this for a while. X often seemed to know things he shouldn't know, or said wise things that seemed to come from somewhere beyond his 5 years. "What does he tell you?" Griffin asked gently. "He tells me that dying as a baby wasn't scary because he didn't understand what was happening," X said. "He just went to sleep in Dad's arms and woke up somewhere peaceful. He says he can see all of us from there, and he's proud of how we take care of each other." Elon's hands were shaking as he listened to his son. He had carried guilt about Nevada's death for over 20 years. The doctors said SIDS wasn't anyone's fault, but Elon had always wondered if he could have done something different. Does he blame me?" Elon asked, his voice barely audible. X looked at his father with surprising seriousness. "Dad, Nevada says you gave him the best 10 weeks a baby could have. He says he felt loved every single day he was here. He's not sad about dying because he got to be your son, even if it was only for a little while." Now everyone was crying. Even the older boys who usually tried to be strong for their younger siblings to deeper understanding. As the evening grew darker and the first stars appeared, X continued sharing what he believed Nevada had told him. "He says he watches over all of us," X explained. When Griffin got into Stanford, Nevada was there cheering. When Kai learned his first song on guitar, Nevada was listening. When Saxon won the science fair, Nevada was proud too. X turned to Sarah. "And when Dad met you, Nevada was happy because he could see that you would love all of us the right way." "What do you mean, the right way?" Sarah asked. Not trying to replace anyone or change anyone, X said. Just adding more love to what was already there. Nevada says our family has room for everyone. The people who are here and the people who are watching from heaven. The adults sat in stunned silence, amazed by the wisdom coming from such a young child. Whether X was really communicating with his deceased brother or simply processing grief in his own beautiful way, his words were healing wounds that had been painful for years, sharing the burden as the night grew cooler. Elon wrapped a blanket around his family. The older boys moved closer, creating a circle of warmth on the hillside. X, Elon said softly, have you been carrying these messages from Nevada all by yourself? X nodded. I didn't know if people would believe me, and I didn't want to make you sad by talking about him. Oh, buddy, Griffin said, pulling his little brother close. We should have been talking about Nevada all along. He's our brother too. I think about him every day, admitted Saxon. I was only 6 when he died, but I remember holding him. I remember how tiny his fingers were. I used to be angry that he left us, said Kai. But hearing you talk about him like this, it makes me feel better. Like he didn't really leave. He just moved to a place where we can't see him yet. Damien nodded. Maybe that's why you're so wise, X. Maybe Nevada shares his knowledge with you somehow. Sarah's promise as the family shared their memories and feelings about Nevada. Sarah felt overwhelmed by the trust they were showing her. This wasn't just about accepting her as Elon's wife. This was about including her in their deepest grief and their most precious memories. I want to do something, Sarah said suddenly. I want to make sure Nevada is always remembered in our family. What do you mean? Elon asked. Sarah thought for a moment. What if we set up a scholarship in Nevada's name? For families who can't afford medical care for sick babies? We could help other children get the treatment Nevada needed. X's face lit up. Nevada would love that. He told me he wishes other babies didn't have to get sick like he did. We could work with children's hospitals, Sarah continued, getting excited about the idea. Fund research into SIDS prevention. Make sure every baby gets the best possible care. Elon was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, Sarah, that's perfect. Nevada's life was short, but through this scholarship, he can help save other lives. Hey, new tradition, and Sarah added, looking at X's drawing of the house with all the windows. What if we always set a place for Nevada at family dinners? Not because we expect him to eat, but because he's still part of our family. Yes, said Y, who had woken up and was listening sleepily. Nevada should have a chair too. We could put his baby picture next to his place, suggested Griffin. So, new people who join our family will know about him. And on his birthday every year, we could do something special, added Kai. Plant a tree or donate to the children's hospital. X was practically glowing with happiness. Nevada says that sounds perfect. He says thank you for not forgetting him. The real wedding gift as the family made plans to honor Nevada's memory. Sarah realized that X's speech had given her the greatest wedding gift possible. Not jewelry or expensive presents, but the complete trust of her new family they had shared. Their most painful secret with her. They had let her into their grief and their healing. They had made her not just Elon's wife, but Nevada's stepmother too, even though she would never get to hold him or sing him lullabies. Thank you, she told X, hugging him tightly. Thank you for trusting me with Nevada's story. I promise to love him and remember him for the rest of my life. You don't have to promise, X said simply. Nevada already knows you will. That's why he told me it was okay to tell you about him. As the Marin County fog began to roll in from the ocean, the new family sat together under the stars. They had started the day as separate people coming together for a wedding. They were ending it as something much deeper. A family united not just by love, but by shared loss, healing, and hope. X's courage in speaking about Nevada had transformed their wedding from a simple ceremony into something sacred. He had shown them that love doesn't end with death, and that families can include the people they can't see just as much as the people they can hold. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. But tonight, they were complete. All of them, including the brother who watched over them from somewhere beyond the stars. The morning after Sarah woke up on Sunday morning in Elon's Bel Air home as his wife. The word felt strange and wonderful at the same time. She was no longer Dr. Sarah Chun, the quiet neuroscientist who lived alone with her dog. She was Sarah Musk, stepmother to 5 children and partner to one of the world's most famous entrepreneurs. But more than that, she was now Nevada's stepmother. 2. X's drawing from the night before sat on the nightstand next to her wedding ring, reminding her that she had married into a family that included both the living and the remembered. Elon was already awake, sitting by the window with his laptop, checking overnight messages from SpaceX's mission control. Even on the day after his wedding, rockets needed attention. "Good morning, husband," Sarah said softly, testing out the new word. Elon smiled and closed his laptop. "Good morning, wife. How did you sleep?" "Like I was exactly where I belonged," Sarah replied honestly. From down the hall, they could hear the sounds of children waking up. Y was singing to herself in her room. The older boys were debating what to make for breakfast. X was probably building something with his robot collection. "Are you ready for the circus to begin?" Elon asked, nodding toward his phone, which was already buzzing with notifications. Sarah took a deep breath. "As long as we face it together." The media stormed by 10 a.m. The news was everywhere. Someone at the wedding had taken a photo with a long-distance camera from a nearby hill. The picture was blurry, but it clearly showed Elon and Sarah kissing during the ceremony. Elon Musk's secret wedding screamed the headlines on every entertainment website. Tesla CEO marries Neuralink scientist in surprise ceremony. Sarah's phone had 17 missed calls from reporters. Her parents' house in Oakland had photographers camped outside. Even her college roommate in Boston was getting calls asking for quotes about Sarah's personality. "This is insane," Sarah said, watching the news coverage on Elon's kitchen TV while the children ate cereal around them. "It'll calm down in a few days," Elon assured her. "The media moves fast. Something else will grab their attention soon." But X was more concerned about something else. "Dad, are the reporters going to ask about Nevada?" The question made everyone at the breakfast table go quiet. They hadn't thought about this. If reporters started digging into family history, they might find out about Nevada's death and turn it into a tabloid story. "We don't have to talk about Nevada with reporters," Elon told his son firmly. "That's our private family business. No one else needs to know about him unless we choose to tell them." "But Nevada is part of our family," X said, confused. "Why would we keep him secret?" Sarah knelt down next to X's chair. "We're not keeping him secret, sweetie. But some things are too precious to share with strangers. Nevada's story belongs to our family. We get to decide who we trust with it." X nodded, satisfied with this explanation. A joint statement by noon, Elon's publicist was calling with urgent requests for statements, interviews, and photo shoots. Entertainment Tonight wanted an exclusive. People magazine was offering a cover story. The Ellen DeGeneres show wanted them as guests. "No," Sarah said firmly when she heard the list. "I didn't marry Elon to become famous. I married him because I love him." "But people are curious," the publicist explained. "If you don't tell your story, other people will make up stories about you." Sarah and Elon looked at each other. They had discussed this possibility during their secret engagement. One statement, Elon decided. Simple and honest. "Then we go back to our normal lives." They wrote it together, sitting at the kitchen table while the children played in the backyard. Elon Musk and Dr. Sarah Chun were married yesterday in a private ceremony with family and close friends. They are grateful for the love and support they have received and ask for privacy as they begin their married life together. Dr. Chun will continue her important work at Neuralink, where she is developing brain-computer interfaces to help people with paralysis and neurological conditions. Short, factual, and focused on what mattered, Sarah's work, not celebrity gossip. Protecting the children. The hardest part of the media attention was protecting the children. Griffin was old enough to understand and ignore the noise, but the younger ones were confused by all the fuss. "Why do strangers care who Dad married?" Y asked innocently. "Because sometimes people are more interested in other people's lives than their own," Elon explained. "But that doesn't mean we have to pay attention to them." The family decided to spend Sunday afternoon at home, away from cameras and questions. They ordered pizza, watched movies, and played board games, normal family activities that felt precious after the intensity of the wedding. X kept his Nevada drawings close by, occasionally showing them to Sarah and explaining new details he had added. "I drew Nevada's window bigger in this one," he told her, pointing to his latest artwork, "because I think he can see more from heaven than we can see from here." Plans for the future. As evening approached, Sarah and Elon found time to talk privately about their immediate future. The honeymoon they had planned, A long weekend at a cabin in Big Sur would have to wait. Reporters would follow them anywhere they went. "I'm sorry," Elon said. "I knew marrying me would change your life, but I didn't think about how overwhelming. It would be right away." "Don't apologize," Sarah replied. "This is temporary. The attention will die down, but our marriage is forever." They talked about practical things too. Sarah would keep her apartment in Palo Alto for now, but spend most nights at Elon's house with the children. She would continue her research at Neuralink, but might need security when she went to work. Most importantly, they talked about the Nevada scholarship they had promised to create. "I want to announce it properly," Sarah said. "Not to get attention, but because it might inspire other people to help sick children too. We could work with Children's Hospital Oakland," Elon suggested. That's where Nevada was treated. The doctors there did everything they could for him. "And we could fund research into SIDS prevention," Sarah added. "Maybe we can help other families avoid what you went through." A quiet evening as darkness fell over Los Angeles. The Musk family settled into their new normal. The older boys did homework while Elon helped Y build a tower with blocks. X worked on another drawing while Sarah read emails from colleagues congratulating her on the wedding. The media storm outside felt distant and unimportant. What mattered was here, in this living room, with these people she now got to call family. "Sarah," X said, looking up from his drawing, "Nevada wants me to tell you something." Everyone in the room paid attention when X spoke about Nevada. "He says thank you for wanting to help other sick babies. He says that's the best wedding present anyone could give him." Sarah's eyes filled with happy tears. "Tell him I said he's welcome. And tell him I'm honored to be his stepmother." X smiled. "He already knows. He says he loves you too." The first night later that evening, after the children were in bed and the house was quiet, Sarah and Elon sat together on their bedroom balcony overlooking the city lights of Los Angeles. "Do you regret it?" Elon asked quietly. "The secret wedding, the media attention, all of it." Sarah thought about the question seriously. In 24 hours, her entire life had changed. She was now married to one of the most famous people on Earth. She had 5 stepchildren, including one she would never meet but would always love. Tomorrow, she would have to drive to work past photographers and reporters, but she also had a family that trusted her with their deepest secrets. She had a husband who shared her dreams of using science to help humanity. She had children who looked at her with love and acceptance. Most of all, she had been welcomed into a family's healing journey. Their transformation from a group of people dealing with loss to a complete family that could love all its members, visible and invisible. "No," she said firmly. "I don't regret any of it. This is where I belong." As they prepared for bed, Sarah looked at X's drawings one more time. In every picture, Nevada's window glowed a little brighter than the others, as if he was sending light to his family from wherever he was. Tomorrow would bring reporters and photographers and people who wanted to know everything about their private lives. But it would also bring the chance to announce the Nevada Musk Foundation for SIDS Research and Prevention. IT would bring the opportunity to turn their family's greatest sadness into hope for other families, and it would bring them one day closer to the future they were building together. A future where love was stronger than loss and families could include everyone who mattered, whether they could be seen or not. 6 months later, March 2026 spring had come to Northern California, and Sarah was glowing in a way that had nothing to do with the warm sunshine streaming through the windows of the Neuralink lab. At 4 months pregnant, she was finally starting to show, and the secret was getting harder to keep. "Dr. Musk," said her research assistant, Dr. Amanda Liu, using Sarah's new married name with a smile. "The latest test results from the paralyzed patients are incredible. The brain chips are working better than we ever imagined." Sarah looked at the data on her computer screen. 3 patients who had been paralyzed from the neck down could now control computer cursors just by thinking. One had even managed to type a letter to his daughter using only his thoughts. "This is what we dreamed about," Sarah said, placing her hand on her small bump. "Technology that gives people their lives back." The work felt even more meaningful now that she was part of a family that understood loss and healing. Every breakthrough at Neuralink was a victory not just for science, but for everyone who had ever felt broken or forgotten. The foundation grows. The Nevada Musk Foundation for SIDS Research and Prevention had officially launched 3 months after the wedding. Sarah and Elon had worked with Children's Hospital Oakland to create scholarships for families who couldn't afford medical care for sick babies. The announcement had been simple but powerful. Instead of doing interviews on talk shows, they had written a letter explaining why Nevada's memory mattered to them. Our son Nevada lived for only 10 weeks, but his impact on our family will last forever. Through this foundation, we hope his brief life can help save others. Every baby deserves the best possible start in life. The response had been overwhelming. Donations poured in from around the world. Other celebrities shared their own stories of infant loss. Medical researchers applied for grants to study SIDS prevention, but the most meaningful response had come from XAEXI. Nevada is happy, he had told Sarah one evening as they looked at photos of babies who had received help from the foundation. He says this is exactly what he wanted, for his story to help other children. Family traditions, the Musk household had settled into new traditions that included Nevada in their daily lives. Every Sunday dinner, they set an extra place at the table with Nevada's baby photo next to the empty plate. At first, guests found it strange, but soon they understood it was a beautiful way to remember that on Nevada's birthday in January, the family had planted a redwood tree in their backyard. X had insisted they plant it where he could see it from his bedroom window. Now Nevada has a tree that will grow big and strong like he would have, X had explained as they watered the small sapling. The older boys had started talking about Nevada more freely. Griffin shared memories of holding his baby brother. Saxon told stories about how excited he had been to be a big brother. The healing that began at the wedding continued to grow stronger every day, a growing family when Sarah and Elon finally announced her pregnancy in February. The media attention was gentler than expected. People remembered X's touching wedding speech, which had somehow been recorded and shared online. The little boy's words about including invisible family members had moved millions of people. Baby Luna is going to have the best big brothers and sisters, Sarah told reporters during a rare interview. She's joining a family that knows how precious every moment is. They had chosen the name Luna because Elon had always been fascinated by the moon, and Sarah loved that it meant light in Latin. After so much darkness following Nevada's death, Luna would be their light. The children were all excited about the new baby, but X was especially thrilled. Nevada told me Luna is going to be very smart, he announced to the family one morning over breakfast. He says she's going to help people just like Mom does with the brain chips. How does Nevada know that? Asked Y, who is now 5 and starting to understand more about her invisible brother. He can see things we can't see yet, X explained matter-of-factly. He says Luna chose our family because we needed more love, and she has lots of love to give. Changes at work. Sarah's pregnancy had brought unexpected changes to her work at Neuralink. She was more careful about radiation exposure and long hours, but she was also more motivated than ever to perfect the brain-computer interface technology. I want to finish this project before Luna is born, she told Elon one evening as they reviewed research data together. I want her to grow up in a world where paralyzed people can walk again just by thinking about it. The technology was getting closer to that goal every day. The latest brain chips were smaller, more powerful, and safer than ever before. Clinical trials were showing remarkable results. You're changing the world, Elon told his wife as she worked late into the evening. Luna is going to be so proud of her mom. Preparing for Luna as Sarah's due date approached, the family prepared for their newest member. They painted a nursery in soft yellows and greens, with stars on the ceiling that would glow in the dark. X insisted they paint one extra star that was brighter than the others. That's Nevada's star, he explained. So Luna will always know he's watching over her. The older boys were excited about having a baby sister. Griffin was home from Stanford for spring break and spent hours assembling the crib. Kai composed a lullaby on his guitar. Saxon researched the best educational toys for babies. Damien wrote a program that would play soothing sounds when Luna cried. Even Y was helpful, organizing tiny baby clothes by color and practicing how to hold a doll gently. Luna arrives on a quiet Tuesday morning in March. Sarah woke up with contractions. She and Elon drove calmly to the private hospital in San Francisco where Luna would be born, surrounded by the best medical care available. Are you scared? Elon asked as they waited for the doctor. No, Sarah said honestly. I'm excited. We're about to meet our daughter. Luna Marie Musk was born at 3:47 p.m., weighing 7 pounds and 2 ounces. She had Elon's pale skin and Sarah's dark hair, and she was absolutely perfect. When the nurses placed Luna in Sarah's arms, the baby opened her dark eyes and looked directly at her mother, as if she recognized her voice from months of hearing it during pregnancy. "Hello, Luna," Sarah whispered. "We've been waiting for you." Meeting the family that evening, all the children came to the hospital to meet their new sister. They had to take turns because the room wasn't big enough for everyone at once. Griffin went first, as the oldest. He held Luna carefully, amazed by how tiny her fingers were. "She looks like Dad, but prettier," he joked. Kai sang her the lullaby he had written, and Luna seemed to listen intently to the music. Saxon told her about all the science experiments they would do together when she got older. Damien promised to teach her how to code as soon as she could hold a computer mouse. That Y was gentle and careful, stroking Luna's soft hair and whispering secrets in her ear. But X's meeting with Luna was the most special of all. When it was his turn to hold his new sister, X sat very still and looked at her seriously for a long time. "What are you thinking about?" Sarah asked. "Nevada is here," X said quietly. He wanted to meet Luna too. He says she's even more beautiful than he expected. X leaned down and whispered something in Luna's ear that only she could hear. The baby made a soft cooing sound, as if she was responding. "What did you tell her?" Elon asked. "I told her about Nevada," X replied. "I told her she has a big brother in heaven who loves her and will always watch over her. And I told her that our family is special because we love everyone, even the people we can't see." The complete family as visiting hours ended and the hospital grew quiet. Sarah and Elon sat together with Luna sleeping peacefully between them. Through the window, they could see the lights of San Francisco twinkling in the distance. "She's perfect," Sarah said, stroking Luna's cheek. "All our children are perfect," Elon replied. "Even the one we can't hold." The family photo that Elon posted on social media the next day showed all of them together, Sarah holding Luna, surrounded by 6 children of various ages, with Elon standing behind them. The caption was simple: "Our family is complete." But those who knew the family's story understood that the photo represented something deeper. This was a family that had learned to love through loss, to heal through honesty, and to include everyone who mattered, whether they were visible or not. Looking forward, Luna's first weeks at home were filled with the beautiful chaos of a large family welcoming a new member. The older boys helped with feedings and diaper changes. Y sang to her constantly. X showed her his robot collection and told her stories about Nevada. The Nevada Musk Foundation continued to grow, helping more families every month. Sarah's work at Neuralink was changing lives around the world. Elon's companies were building the future one innovation at a time. But the most important work was happening at home, in quiet moments when the family gathered around Luna's crib. X would often stand there, seemingly having conversations with someone no one else could see. "Nevada likes her tiny toes," X would report to the family. "He says they're perfect for kicking and growing strong." Or, "Nevada thinks Luna is going to be very smart, just like Mom. He says she might invent something amazing when she grows up." These moments reminded everyone that their family's greatest strength came not from fame or money or success, but from their ability to love completely, loving the children they could hold and the child they could only remember. As Luna grew from weeks into months, she became the center of a family that had learned the most important lesson of all, that love doesn't end with death, that healing is possible after loss, and that the most beautiful families are the ones that make room for everyone who belongs, whether they can be seen or not. The secret wedding that had surprised 50 guests had become something much more important, the foundation for a family that would change the world, one act of love at a time. And that was the end of this beautiful story about love, loss, healing, and the courage to include everyone who matters in our families, even those we cannot see. Xii's brave words at his father's wedding remind us that the strongest families are built not just on joy, but on honesty about our deepest pain. Sometimes the most profound wisdom comes from the smallest voices, and sometimes the greatest gift we can give someone is the trust to share our most precious memories. That we'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment below and tell us your city or country. It's always amazing to see how stories like this connect people from all around the world. If this story touched your heart, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring, emotional stories that celebrate the power of love and family. And don't forget to share this video with your friends and family, because stories about kindness, healing, and unconditional love are meant to be shared. Together, we can spread more awareness about the importance of including everyone in our circle of love and remind others that families come in all shapes and sizes, including members we hold only in our hearts. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next story.